Well, Bord Iascaigh recently announced details of a funding scheme aimed at developing the blue economy. The blue economy is particularly relevant to Wexford due to its coastal location, and here to tell us more about the grants which are available is Brenda O'Riordan from Bord Iascaigh. Brenda, we'll be discussing the new Brexit Blue Economy Enterprise Development Scheme, but first, perhaps you can provide us with an insight into the work completed by BIM.
BIM is the seafood development agency that works with fishermen and seafood producers and aquaculture businesses all around the coast, and it is tasked with distributing grant aid to a lot of and business support to these organisations. But this scheme is the Brexit Blue Economy Enterprise Development Scheme is different in a way to their normal schemes because this is for the wider community in coastal areas. You don't actually necessarily have to be a fisherman or a fisherwoman or involved in seafood processing to make an application, but you can if you are. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Great. And the term blue economy, it might be new to many. So how would you define the blue economy?
So that's interesting because the blue economy is industries or sectors that are related to the ocean, the sea and the coast. I suppose it's any business that would depend on the coast for its very existence. So, I mean, in the terms of this scheme, it's quite wide-ranging. I mean, you'd automatically consider boat building and repair, marine tourism and sport, and harbours and pier activities. But what also is in it for the purposes of this scheme, which is a community-led local development scheme, is coastal tourism. Seafood is there. That would be an obvious one. And renewable energy initiatives that support the blue economy.
And this scheme came about as a result of Brexit. What impact has Brexit had on the blue economy?
Well, I suppose Brexit in its wider sense has had a huge impact on the whole economy. But the wider, the coastal community and depends largely on fishing activities, and it has had a huge effect on fishing activities and will do for many years. So this is, I suppose, to support the general economies, the coastal businesses, to support them to invest. I mean, also to maybe get people to look at new opportunities that may be there that perhaps that they hadn't thought of before. So that's the purpose of this scheme.
And what level of funding is available, Brenda, through the Brexit Blue Economy Enterprise Development Scheme?
So there's 25 million to be spent nationally between now and the end of September 2023, and each region, and there would be 7 regions, have been allocated 3.5 million. So the funding caps per application or per enterprise would be up to 200,000 granted. So that would be a 400,000 project at 50%.
And of course, given our coastal location here in County Wexford, this scheme is incredibly important to the local community here. So what's involved in the application process?
Well, it's an online application process, but I think before people go online, it's important that they figure out what it is that they want to do. And first of all, to know that they're eligible. Because a lot of people will think when they look at the headlines, I'm not really eligible for that. But, when you drill down into your project and you look at the sector of the blue economy that you're in, your first, I suppose, criteria is that you're within 10 kilometres of the coast. And after that, is your business, is your enterprise, or are you in any way related to the blue economy? So, and then, I mean, you can also be a service provider to the blue, to marine services or tourism, or you can. There are so many ways you can drill into it. So I would advise everybody to have a look at the application, and then to see there are specific ineligible items, and those are fairly absolute. If they're ineligible, I'm afraid they can't be supported. But there's another list which is eligible, and that's very suggestive. That says, these are the headings under which we will consider an application. In all instances, if people have doubts, they should either call myself or my colleague Paul Downs, and we will obviously we're there to support applications and applicants.
And Brenda, there are 3 categories of project which may be funded through the scheme, namely capital investment, business mentoring and capacity development, and thirdly, upskilling and training. Starting with capital investment, what is deemed eligible and what are the funding limits in that respect?
Well, eligible activities in capital investment would be applications that have a demonstrable connection to the blue economy. And for instance, like the headings that I would have said earlier, like the piers, private piers and marinas, boat building and repair, coastal tourism, you have marine leisure and sport, you have seafood, that would be added value seafood, and renewable energy initiatives that support the blue economy. So you're looking at facilities that will increase your activity. You're looking at maybe equipment that will increase your activity, improvements to an existing premises. If you've got in coastal tourism, if you're looking for marine education or marine tourism that you need new equipment or you need to upgrade existing equipment, you can apply for all of that. Website trading platforms and booking portals. Actually, an interesting one for glamping and campsite facilities upgrades. So if you're looking for communal area upgrades, toilets and other facilities, marine tourism vessels, fit outs of marine tourism vessels, and anything that would assist multilingual audio interpretations for coastal cruises and that. But actually what's very interesting this time around, and it's very current, is the renewable energy initiatives. So if you have already an existing business and you're looking at ways to cut your costs, you could make an application to, looking at solar panels, wind turbines, for businesses and combined heat and power exchanges. So there's lots in there. I know obviously it all requires investment, but there's lots in there that perhaps you might think you wouldn't have been eligible for already, but you can have a look down through it and see would it suit you.
And what are the funding limits under that category, capital investment?
So the funding limits across all project types is €200,000 of grant aid, and that is if you made one application or several applications across the entire scheme. The total cap is 200,000 grant aid across all of them.
I'm a strong believer in business mentoring and the benefits which it can deliver to businesses, but I'd like to get an insight into the mentoring funding that you're providing to businesses through this scheme. What level of support is available and how does it work?
The level of support for business mentoring and capacity development is €20,000 worth of mentoring services to a business. Now you can make more than one application, so it doesn't have to be just 20,000, and it's based again at 50% grant aid. So the net payment to your organisation would be a maximum of €10,000 worth of support, and as I say, you can make one or several applications to this also. The key thing here is that this is the business or the enterprise bringing somebody into their organisation, either to train employees within the organisation to add another skill to their, for instance, engineering, or, if you needed to bring somebody in to train people within the organisation, or if you had new processes or new infrastructure, or you wanted to implement some changes, you can bring somebody in, not necessarily a consultant or a feasibility study. These are people that are going to come in and they're going to upskill the value within the organisation. They will teach somebody how to do something within the organisation so that the skill remains within the organisation. And that's important. And so again, if you combine, let's say for instance, you had one business mentoring and capacity development project, and you had something in the capital expenditure, the capital investment, those two combined would be capped at 200,000 grant aid.
And with respect to the upskilling and training grant, do the programmes have to be specific to the blue economy, and what do you expect there to be a demand for?
Well, this is a very interesting one, because with this one you can be an ordinary individual. You don't have to be an enterprise. You don't have to be a sole trader. You don't have to have an existing business. So you can be just an ordinary you and me that's walking down the street, and you want to do a course, or you want to do further education. And now the only criteria is that, first of all, it has to only be a one-year course. Unfortunately, the funding on this expires at the end of 2023, so we can't do multi-annual courses. but we can support a 1-year course or shorter if that is what you want to do. And the grant aid for this is a maximum of, again, 20,000 at 50%. So maximum grant aid payment of 10,000 euros. So this is, as I say, it's for an individual. So the individual who's completing the course, who's doing the course, must be the applicant in this case. And it's for them, they must live or work within 10 kilometres of the coastline. And they must do a course that will facilitate their entry to or promotion within the blue economy. It's really up to the applicant to make a case. You know, tell us your story. Why do you want to do the course? How do you think it will enable you to gain promotion or enter work in the blue economy? And all applications are looked at individually, and people will just make an assessment on the basis of what people tell us.
From an evaluation perspective, what is involved and what are the projected timelines?
So from application submission to getting an answer, you're looking at approximately 6 weeks. We are turning some projects around faster. Some are taking longer because the bigger the project, obviously, the more evaluations and, you know, it takes longer perhaps for an applicant to put in a business plan or and the more complicated the project, the more sometimes it takes longer to put the application together. But we are looking at a turnaround time of 6 weeks, so that people will have an answer fairly fast, actually, for grant aid.
And Brenda, finally, if any of our listeners would like more information about the scheme, how can they access it?
All information on this scheme and all the other schemes run by Bordis Square are on the BIM website. So if you go on to www.bim.ie and just follow the links through to the fisheries and funding pages. Can I just say this is actually only one of 16 schemes that Bordis Square are running at the moment, and this is particularly targeted at coastal communities. But there are other schemes there for aquaculture, for seafood processing, and for other training schemes that are run through BIM on a regular basis. So if you have any interest in anything to do with either fisheries, aquaculture, or training within the seafood industry, it's worth checking it out.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Brenda O'Riordan from Bordis Square, and this funding will certainly be welcomed by businesses that are operating within the blue economy across County Wexford. We're heading over next to the Wexford News Centre for the news at 11, but when we return, we'll be joined by Ryan Scollin from Adamus Esports about the growing opportunities in the gaming world. So stay tuned for that.